to our Thursday evening Parent Academy webinar session. Thank you for joining. And again, we're excited to have you as audience listeners and participants. My name is Tina Folston-Hayes. I'm the Parent Academy Specialist for Educational Equity and Outreach for the Alachua County Public Schools, and I welcome you this evening. Tonight, we will receive some helpful information about dual enrollment from our guest speaker, Ms. Vivian Graham from Santa Fe. However, so just before we begin, let me go over a few housekeeping elements. Please keep your microphones on mute through the duration of the presentation. We will be monitoring your questions and respond accordingly. Please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your webinar window for any questions that you may have. Please note that all of Parent Academy webinars are closed captioned and recorded and posted to our website for any individuals who could not tune in live tonight, and for a re-review for any individuals that need to rewatch it. If there is a need for any personal conversations that you would like to reach out to the Parent Academy, the Parent Academy's email address is parentacademy@gm.sbac.edu. And I will get to those questions, either answer them or get you forwarded to the correct person that can take care of you. And so without further ado, welcome, Ms. Vivian. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ms. Tina. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk to your families and students that had an interest in finding out a little bit more about Santa Fe College and our high school dual enrollment program. And so I guess, as Ms. Tina said, my name is Vivian Graham. Give you a little bit of my background. I am one of the advisors with specifically the high school dual enrollment students in our program here with Santa Fe. I have been with this program in this position for close to 19 years. And have about 35 years with middle and high school guidance counselor experience. But again, the last 19 years really here with Santa Fe in our high school dual enrollment program. So hopefully information I'm going to be able to share with you this evening just gives you more things to think about. And then again, at the end, questions, we'll try to answer whatever questions that you may have. So I'm going to go ahead and move along here. Our high school dual enrollment program, our director, she is executive director of secondary programs here with the college. Her name is Dr. Jen Homard. And we are entering our 50th year of high school dual enrollment with Santa Fe College. 2024 is celebrating our 50th year. And our program could be academic dual enrollment, looking at English classes, math classes, science classes, those kinds of things. Could be fine arts. We have a fantastic fine arts program here with Santa Fe College, whether that be in visual arts, performing arts, music, theater, wide variety of opportunities in fine arts programs, as well as with our career and technical programs, and whether that might be something with construction management, welding, automotive, a variety of health sciences, nursing, dental hygiene, respiratory care, CNA programs, physical therapy assistants, wide variety of health science programs, and a wide variety of computer and IT related programs. But those are kind of all following under that career and technical program umbrella. And students can dual enroll part-time or full-time. We have lots and lots of different options for just to suit what the student and the family would like to take advantage of. For this past school year that we're really just kind of getting to the end of, our spring semester officially ended last week with final exams. And starting on Monday, we actually are already starting our summer classes. But for the 2023-2024 school year, students and families participating in high school dual enrollment with Santa Fe College were able to save over $2 million in tuition for those college courses, as well as those textbook costs for college courses. textbooks is a whole thing unto itself, and you can end up saying, oh, here's a textbook for this class that could cost upwards of $200 for that one book for that one class. And so high school dual enrollment, your tuition is covered. You are not paying any tuition for those classes, and any kind of required textbooks and materials are loaned to you. You're not covering those costs either. And just this past week, we had 71 high school seniors that either were earning an AA degree, which is that transfer degree onto a university of kind of doing the first 2 years of basic general education requirements as part of that 4-year bachelor's degree, or that they were finishing some AS degree programs and graduating from those, or some of our certificate programs. Some of those might include CNA, getting a certified nursing assistant certificate. We always have some students in that last semester of senior year that might be going through our EMT program and coming out of that with being a certified emergency medical technician. And so anyway, 71 students that just graduated this last year with an actual degree completed before they have finished high school. So that's pretty incredible. Now, what's the dual part? What's the dual thing as well? Whatever college classes that you're doing here at the college, it's earning college credit, but that class and credit also goes back onto the high school transcript and is going to be earning high school credit as well for students. So that is that dual piece of things. And, this college classwork that you're doing really is then beginning your official college transcript, your official college GPA. We all want things to go very well for students that come into our program, to be able to demonstrate that you have already been successful in college classes on a college campus and have done well as you are then making applications to different programs and different schools in the future. Showing that you've already been so successful in college classes as a high school student is always a very positive thing. But these classes really do begin that official college transcript and that official college GPA. And again, those grades that you're earning with our classes are going back onto that high school transcript. They're going to get calculated into your high school GPA. Any of those college dual enrollment courses, they are weighted, just as a college AP course would be, a college IB course, Cambridge courses. They are weighted the same as that. Now, universities, as they look at a high school transcript, and they can do their own kind of GPA calculation as they're kind of evaluating a student for admission. And most universities are going to look at honors courses, a high school honors course, English 3 honors, a high school chemistry honors course or something. They usually weigh those kind of with a half grade point extra for that honors course. But a college dual enrollment course, AP, Cambridge, IB courses, universities are typically weighting those as like a full point extra for that grade. But anyway, these courses go on to that high school transcript, earning you high school credit, keeping you on track for high school graduation. But also those college courses have been earning college credit as well. So how in the world do students get to us? Well, there's not any school bus that's going to run you onto a Santa Fe campus for that high school student to be able to take some courses with us. So you do have to have transportation figured out. Santa Fe students with their Santa Fe ID card can be riding the RTS bus system for free. Some students may be carpooling. Some students, if they're close to where our campus is located, where they're taking those classes, might be riding their bike or walking or whatever. Certainly, sometimes there may be parents that will be dropping off and picking up. And then, some students may have the availability to be driving themselves, but there is not a school bus that is going to run a student out here to a campus to be able to take classes. And we do have multiple campuses. Our main campus is called the Northwest Campus. It is where the dual enrollment office is located, and I'm sitting in my office right now talking to you. But it's out close to Buchholz High School off of Northwest 23rd Avenue and on kind of the south side of campus, and Northwest 39th on the north side of campus. But that is our main campus and where the most course options are available. But we do have other campuses, and high school dual enrollment students can take classes at our other campuses as well. Here in Gainesville, we have our downtown Blunt Center campus, which is closer to UF. We also have our Watson Center campus, which is located in Keystone Heights. We have our Andrews Center campus, which is located up in Stark. We have our Perry Center campus, which is located in Alachua. And then we have our Davis Center campus, which is located in Archer. But probably most dual enrollment students would be taking classes on our main Northwest campus. Our school calendar, this is something for students and families to really think about and be aware of. The college's calendar is not exactly the same as the school system calendar. We start classes typically a little bit later in August than what the school system does. We likely get out and get finished with classes about a week earlier in December. And then when we come back in January, it really is a new semester and new classes would be going on. And then, as I was just mentioning, we actually start our summer classes Monday. So our spring semester did end kind of right first day or two of May, which is going to get out a little bit earlier than typically what the school system does. And so for any classes that a student is taking with Santa Fe College and high school dual enrollment, you are following a different calendar. And so that's something to be aware of. There'll be a random teacher work day at the high school that probably we are not having a teacher work day on that day. And those high school students are still expected to be in their classes, even though their high school counterparts might be off on that teacher work day. Kind of the biggest difference that makes the most impact for families to think about is probably Thanksgiving. I think the school system typically has the whole week of Thanksgiving off. Santa Fe most typically is only closed on Thursday and Friday of Thanksgiving week. And then oftentimes spring break. Typically our spring breaks have been at different times. And so even though your student may be a high school student, they are following the college's calendar. And so when the high school is on spring break, that doesn't mean that they are on spring break here. Now, when the college is on spring break, they don't have their classes with us. But then their high school counterparts might still be in classes, and or for a student who may be part-time with us, that they're taking some classes at their high school, but some classes with us, again, that different calendar you're balancing. And so that's just something certainly for students and families to be aware of and to kind of think about. Now, with the school system, parents, I think, have a parent portal on Skyward where they can kind of go in and kind of check on grades and see, how did they do on the test, or are they turning their homework in and stuff. That is not something that you're going to have access to as your student comes to Santa Fe and is in college courses, that you're not going to have any type of way of necessarily tracking and seeing how they're doing specifically in that class and have that direct access. Now, for most classes here with the college, the college utilizes Canvas. I think most students in the school system are familiar with Canvas because the school system's been using Canvas for a number of years. And so certainly, students and parents can, sit down. It's like, let's pull up Canvas and take a look at how things have been going in that class. But parents just don't have that portal to be able to zone in and be able to pick that up. And us as advisors, we don't have direct access into a college class to be able to see how a student has been doing. For parents that are wanting to try to have some feedback on how classes are going, appropriate approach would be to reach out to your student's assigned advisor with the dual enrollment program, and then we will reach out to that college instructor and try to get feedback on how a student is doing in a class. Now, I will share that the college does have a few times during the semester that they kind of do a push out to professors and say, hey, now's a good time to be posting some progress information. And professors are strongly encouraged to be doing progress information, especially for students who they feel like that, that there may be some concern with that, maybe the first test didn't go so well, or a student hasn't been keeping up with all the assignments, or maybe they haven't been attending particularly regularly, that they will post some progress alerts about that student if they have some concerns. And those alerts do message our office. Whatever advisor is assigned to a student that a professor puts in some type of progress concern, that's going to notify that advisor for that student. And then we will then be following up on that, not only with student, but also with parent, and say, hey, we've gotten a notification from that instructor that, hey, first test didn't go so well. Please have your student be connecting with that instructor to get some extra help during their office hours, or to be utilizing tutoring resources or whatever. So there are times that we do get some alerts, and we absolutely reach out to students and parents at that time. But for parents, you don't have that direct access to really be monitoring how things are going. This first bulleted item here, talking about FERPA. That is what governs educational records and privacy rights and stuff. And your student can, within their account with Santa Fe's database, fill out a FERPA release form giving permission for parents to be contacting college instructors, and for college instructors to share information directly with the parent. But that is something that the student would have to fill out on their account to give that, to grant that access for a parent to be able to have communication directly with the college instructor, or to be communicating with them. So now, students, how are you being communicated with? Our main way of communicating with our students on campus and in our program really is through that student's official Santa Fe email, which that would be a piece of if they're accepted into the program. They will then have an official Santa Fe email account, and that is our primary way of communicating information to students. We also have dual enrollment will show up on a student's Canvas page. And not that we're a class that a student is taking, but we use Canvas as a way to post announcements, share documents that students could go back and access, and be able to say, hey, I remember seeing some test dates for ACT or SAT that they posted last month. Let me go back and take a look at what those test dates were and such. So we utilize Canvas as a way of communicating. That Santa Fe email. And then we will text sometimes if a student's given permission for texting. Usually the text message will say, hey, we've just posted some important information on Canvas or to your email, check it out. But that is our main modes of communicating with our students. We don't have morning announcements like they might at the high school, because we don't have a captive audience that we know is here on a given day and a given time to be able to do that announcement. So we utilize email, Canvas, texting. Now, sometimes students and families will ask, well, if I'm doing dual enrollment, that mean then I don't get to be able to have other scholarships that I might normally qualify for. That's not the case whatsoever. Dual enrollment students can still absolutely qualify for Bright Future Scholarship, which that's the state of Florida's largest scholarship program, and kind of what most people have heard about. State of Florida actually has a wide variety of scholarship and grant programs that students may be eligible for, but Bright Futures is the largest one. And so absolutely, dual enrollment students that have come through this program certainly can still be qualifying for Bright Future scholarships. And that's information that we go and review and talk about with students as we meet with them, and which we're meeting with them actually fairly often, because it's always time to register for a next semester. And so that's information that we'll share. Santa Fe specifically, fairly new. It's been now, I think, through our second full year of things, but Santa Fe Achieve, that is a relatively new scholarship program specific with Santa Fe, and students that have been in dual enrollment that are continuing at Santa Fe as a college student, they still can be qualifying to get that Santa Fe Achieve scholarship as well. Now, whether you may not know, some people know, some people aren't really aware, We actually do teach high school classes here on the main Northwest campus as part of the dual enrollment program. This, especially can be for students who are looking at being with us full time. And as they go through our application process and placement testing, perhaps they're perfectly ready and capable of being very successful going into a first college English class. But maybe for a student, maybe math is not their strongest subject and they're not quite ready yet to jump into a college math class, but they still need math to graduate from high school and they really want to be full time. They don't want to be at their high school anymore. So then how can they get their math done? Well, we do kind of teach those core 11th and 12th grade high school graduation requirements as high school classes here. So a student doesn't necessarily have to try to get to their high school to take a course that they don't feel ready to be taking as a college course to take care of that remaining requirement that they may have. Or even if a student tests that they could be in all college classes, even in that very first semester with us, is it always a great idea to throw a student into all college classes? Maybe not. Some students may be like, I feel good about starting 2 or 3 college classes, but maybe 1 or 2, I still want to keep high school level while I'm kind of getting my feet wet, make sure I get off to do a good start. Remember, those college classes are part of that permanent college transcript, and we want it to be a good one. That we may have students that's like, hey, I really am interested in doing some of those high school classes. So we do have those core 11th and 12th grade classes offered as high school classes here on the main Northwest campus. Our high school faculty are excellent. They are some of the most popular professors here on campus, and most of our high school faculty actually do teach college courses too here with Santa Fe. And so they know very well what students need to have to be successful moving from that high school class onto that college class in that subject area. And they really kind of will help students in that transition time of getting their feet wet and getting used to a different environment, that they really are kind of a support for that student to make sure that they are accessing the resources they need. If they, are having difficulties with anything, that they can really help get that student pointed in the right direction, and kind of be almost a mentor for those students. Now, speaking of resources, a lot of resources available for students coming to Santa Fe, and all of these resources are free of charge. First and foremost, if a student's having some difficulty in a class, they should be connecting with that instructor during that instructor's office hours. That instructor for the class is probably the best resource to help that student out in that class. And every instructor here, whether our college instructors or the high school instructors for our high school classes, all have an office on campus, and they have designated days and times that they are sitting in their office just waiting for students to come in, ask them questions, get some extra help, get some clarification on an assignment. So I would always encourage a student to be connecting with that particular instructor for a class that they may find that they've hit a little bump in the road, and it's like not quite understanding what's been covered for that past week or so. But we do have a lot of other resources available for students. Most of our in-person tutoring is going to be located in the first 2 floors of our library on campus. That whole tutoring area is referred to as the Learning Commons. But they could be tutoring for science classes, math classes, foreign language classes, accounting, economics, foreign languages. There is writing tutoring. So say a student is writing a paper for a class and they've got their rough draft and they'd like somebody else to help them proofread and edit it before they're actually turning it in for a grade. Then a student should come in and meet with one of our writing tutors for 10 or 15 minutes and go through that paper. Lots and lots of resources available to Santa Fe students. And so while we do understand, in-person tutoring, great, but maybe students sitting at home, they're working on some math problems and it's like, oh my gosh, I can't figure this out. They don't want or have the time or the means to have to try to come back to campus to meet with the tutor. really everything we have available for in-person tutoring, we also have available as online tutoring. And students on their eSanta Fe accounts, which is their access to their own information on Santa Fe's website, there's a tutoring and support tab. They open that up, they see there's a link for online tutoring. And if it was math, they could click on that. If it was science, they could click on that. If it was that writing tutor, select that option, and that will take them to a virtual Zoom waiting room for a tutor in that subject to then bring them in and help them virtually. So students don't have to make it to campus to be able to take advantage of some of that tutoring. We also have what we call after hours tutoring. Our Santa Fe tutors really do have lots of availability. Pretty early in the morning into the evenings, we have weekend tutoring available, both in person and online, but our tutors don't work 24/7. So we do have a private company that we are contracted with for that after hours tutoring. That really is 24/7. So if you have a student that is a night owl and they're working on some math at 1 o'clock in the morning, our Santa Fe tutors are not available at 1 o'clock in the morning. But this after hours tutoring is going to be another resource for your students to help them be successful in those classes. This whole Learning Commons, this last little circle here says academic success coaching. Learning Commons does have academic success coaches available, and those are people that students can kind of connect with individually, maybe a few times during a semester. They can help students learn about study skills, time management skills, making sure they're aware of resources and how to be accessing and using those on campus. And again, just kind of a one person that they could kind of be just touching base with periodically, and can be another support network for that student. The Learning Commons also runs workshops during the semester, whether test anxiety, how to create an educational portfolio, again, test taking tips, organizational strategies. And those are all things that all students can take advantage of if they would like to. Now, characteristics of a successful dual enrollment student be? Maybe some of the most common things is, students that are pretty self-motivated, that they are mature. This really is a different environment than what students are used to at their high schools. There's not bells ringing telling you it's time to move from one class to another class, or teachers standing in the hallway and kind of, shooing students on and say, make sure, get on to class, you're about to be late or anything. Students need to keep up with what their schedule is, know what time it is, know what time they're supposed to be in that next class. For these college courses, there's no little red flag by a dual enrollment student's name as they're looking through that class roster that says, oh, this is a high school student. They treat our high school dual enrollment students just as they treat any college student, and they expect a certain level of maturity and responsibility from that student. Students really do have more freedom coming to our program, so really does mean that there's more responsibility on them to be following through with things and to, be using those resources, or to reach out to us, communicate with their teachers or with their dual enrollment advisor if they have questions, if they're not sure what to be doing about something, not just to sit there quietly and just say, well, I'll figure it out, or maybe I won't figure it out. Communicate with us. Those students that communicate are going well down the road of being that very successful dual enrollment student. Again, use those resources that are available to them and really get involved. I think Ms. Tina and I were talking about this shortly before starting this session, of that regardless of what environment a student is in, that usually getting involved with something at that college and that campus, or at the high school or at the middle school, getting involved with things usually makes for a much more enjoyable experience in that setting. And high school dual enrollment students really can get involved with almost everything with the college. They can be in clubs, they can be officers in clubs. We have dual enrollment students that are presidents of different clubs and activities. They can get involved with student government. We have, athletic intramural stuff. If students interested in sports and want to do something here with Santa Fe, they could look at doing it. Really, the things that they would be limited on, we do have a student ambassador program. They're kind of the students that lead group tours. They help us with different events on campus and such. And our dual enrollment students cannot be student ambassadors. Could some of our students be excellent student ambassadors? Absolutely. But the student ambassador program is a scholarship program. Students that are student ambassadors are getting their tuition covered by Santa Fe College. And as a high school dual enrollment student, you already have your tuition covered. You're not paying tuition. So it really is a scholarship program too. And so we're not going to use a spot for a student ambassador with a high school student that already is having their tuition taken care of. And so we leave that only for college students. And then the other thing that a high school dual enrollment student would not be able to participate in is you cannot be actually on one of our college athletic teams. You can't be on our men's baseball team. You can't be on women's volleyball. Because those are also kind of scholarship positions, and students actually have to be college students to be on our athletic teams. But we do have athletic intramurals you can get involved with, but the actual sports teams can't be involved with. But lots of things. And again, those students that enjoy our program, get the most out of our program, probably do try to get involved with something that they're interested with here on campus. What's kind of a typical day in the life of a dual enrollment student? Well, the thing is, there's probably not really a typical day, because there is a lot of flexibility for what a student is wanting to do with us, and that we kind of tailor that schedule to suit what they want. We've already talked about, could be full-time, could be part-time. Part-time student isn't going to be here as much as what a full-time student would be. One of the big draws, I guess, for this program that I hear from a lot of students, as well as just parents and stuff, is they really do like that flexibility of scheduling. You'll find most college classes are probably just meeting twice a week. Sometimes you might have a class that's going to meet 3 days a week. Sometimes it might be once a week. We do have some online classes as well, but most typically a college class is going to be meeting twice a week. And we have classes that might start as early as about 7:30 in the morning. We have classes that could be available all throughout the day into the late afternoon and even some evening hours. And so if a student, maybe they're not a morning person, and yes, they want to take several classes, but they'd rather not start until about noon, that's something that we can probably accommodate for them. Or maybe you've got a student that they are a morning person and they're ready to get started as early in the day as we can. And we can start them in the morning and maybe have them done by about lunchtime, giving them time. Sometimes they then are able to go off to work. They have a job, and perhaps they can start a little bit earlier for that employer than what they would if they were at the high school. Maybe students are getting back to their high school because they're involved in extracurriculars or sports. And absolutely, high school dual enrollment students can still be doing all those things with their high schools. You just need to tell the advisors as we're working on the schedule, hey, I need to be back to my high school by this time. So anyway, so each student's schedule and day may really be different. And that's really a lot of the appeal of this program, is it really does give students a lot of flexibility, rather than, you're starting at a certain time, you got 6 classes, you're ending at a certain time, it's 5 days a week. And, just not as much flexibility with that structure of what the typical high school is like. And so really each student's day can look a little bit different. And that's something you'll just work out what is going to suit your needs with your high school dual enrollment advisor as we sit down to register for your classes. So, if you have a student that really, you're kind of, this is sounding interesting, we always say, hey, you can be kind of jumpstarting your future by getting involved with the high school dual enrollment program. I will share this is what our website looks like. If you just go on Santa Fe's website and type in high school dual enrollment in the search bar, this is what our webpage looks like. And information about the program, including the application, is on this website, the high school dual enrollment section of Santa Fe's website. Now, we really, as far as for this upcoming school year, starting in August of 2024, we really are kind of towards the end of our application process and acceptance process. I actually started meeting with new students this week and starting to get them registered for fall classes. We start kind of for the upcoming school year, we start sending out informational brochures and stuff in January. Our application usually opens in early February, and that we typically will have a priority date for students to have applications in, and the accompany placement testing that you can do with us, or if a student's done an ACT or SAT or CLT, they can provide us those scores. That we usually have a priority date of late March. And so, we're now into early May, but I wouldn't say that the door is necessarily closed as far as fall classes begin. But we are at this point kind of on limited space. So if you really might be interested for this fall, I would encourage you to be moving forward with that application right away. Get to Santa Fe's website, type in high school dual enrollment, see our online application, and be working on that. The application does include an essay when you get into it. Students working on filling it out, which is, it's mainly just kind of demographic, name, address, parents' name, what high school you're at, that kind of thing. And then it does have an essay prompt there of why do I want to dual enroll? I can't tell you how many times when we're kind of in our process in January and February and talking with potential new students, and they're like, well, says I'm ready with my application, but I've got to get my essay done, and I'm not ready to turn it in yet because I've got 3 teachers that are going to review it, and I'm not ready to do it yet. The essay is not anything to stress about. We are not grading the essay or scoring the essay. It really is just to give us some information of why you're interested in dual enrollment. If a student knows what they might want to be going into or has a couple of areas that they're thinking as far as career paths, share that with us, because that helps us know maybe some potential classes to suggest to you. But we're not grading or scoring the essay. It is not anything to stress about. Online application, do the essay, you print all that out, and then you have to get it into our office. As soon as we've received that application, we are then providing permission slip for doing our placement testing. Santa Fe's placement test is called the PERT. And it's going to test in reading, in English grammar, and in math. That permission slip for doing our placement testing tells you where to come. You're coming to the assessment center on campus. The test is free of charge. There's no cost to it. And you get your results immediately. As soon as you're done testing, they hand you those results. And then you just get your results back to the dual enrollment office. And that's what really completes the application. An application is not complete, and Dr. Homard, our director, is not reviewing it until we actually do have placement testing results. But again, if a student's taken an ACT or an SAT or the CLT, the Classic Learning Test, which is a newly adopted test this school year by the state of Florida, share those results, and then you may not have to be doing that PERT placement testing, that we can just use those results. But if you happen to have really interest for this fall, again, we are kind of to space available, looking at things. We're not completely closed, but I would encourage you to really look forward with moving forward with this pretty quickly. Some students, it may be, if we're out of space for fall, we certainly could still look at them to maybe start with us mid-year and spring. Some students and families, it's like, yeah, doing a mid-year thing, that just seems a bit awkward and don't want to do that, and that's absolutely fine. But perhaps you're really maybe keeping us in mind for the 2025 26 school year. I guess I'm trying to think ahead, or even, for years after that, depending on what level and grade and stuff that your student is in right now. But typically we kind of open our application process late January, early February, and kind of the timing is then kind of late March for kind of a priority date. It's never a deadline, but then it's after that it's then kind of space available as we look at things. I know I've done a lot of talking, and we're gonna look at trying to answer some questions if we have some. But up here on the screen, this is what to do if you have questions, if you want more information than what we've talked about today. Please follow up with our office. Our phone number is there on the screen, and our email address is there on the screen. You don't have to ask to speak with me, especially on the application stuff. Our office staff are the experts on that, and they're who really are working with students and families. I kind of get students a little bit farther into the process once they have gone through application process and accepted. Then that's kind of when I start working with students. But if it's the only thing that sticks in your mind is my name, Vivian Graham, you're absolutely welcome to call our office and ask for me, and I'll assist you as I can. But then I may be kind of end up shifting you back to having one of our expert office personnel answer questions that you may have. But I appreciate you listening to me ramble on. But Miss Tina, I think I'm kind of done with my PowerPoint presentation here, and now kind of am open to answering questions if we have some out there.
Okay, so we can go down to our Q&A. And for those who joined in a little after I did my initial greeting, please use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your webinar window for any questions that you may have for Miss Vivian. So I think one says they thought you were on mute. So you may, if you can't hear her or myself, then I would probably say try to log out and log back in. But this is closed caption recorded and will be posted to our website for you to watch at a later date. So you will have the opportunity to do so. Okay.
Okay.
So we have, what is the application deadline?
So we don't have a deadline, but as I was saying, we are past our priority date, and we are close to being full. So if you really are interested, perhaps in applying for this upcoming fall, you really need to try to move forward with getting an application in to our office and get the placement testing done, or provide us with ACT, SAT, or CLT scores as soon as possible. Because we kind of at this point or our director's kind of looking through things, and she's kind of monitoring numbers of where we stand of students who have already been accepted, and just kind of seeing where we are, because we do ultimately just kind of hit a limit of that. We just don't have enough time in the day to be able to meet with every student to get them registered and stuff, and that we do kind of max out.
Okay. Do we need to contact the high school guidance office first before we apply?
So good question. With Alachua County Public Schools, no, you don't have to contact the high school guidance office before you apply. And I don't know who all may be here with this meeting, but sometimes some of the private schools, because we do have some agreements with some of the private schools in the area, sometimes the private schools, they kind of approve who is looking at applying to the program and such. So, you can always reach out to your high school guidance counselor and check. But with Alachua County Public Schools, you don't have to work through your high school guidance counselor. You could just, come and connect directly with us.
Okay. And then what is the earliest grade a high school student should start to consider dual enrollment program?
Okay. So yes, and I was seeing there's kind of a few questions about that. I know I keep always saying, I say high school dual enrollment program. Technically, middle school students can actually start with us too. it's not many that would end up, choosing to do that, or that, parents would think that that's, that's the best option for them. But it actually the state of Florida actually does have dual enrollment, can be open from 6th grade on now.
Wow.
Now, a few things with that. Students cannot be full-time dual enrollment students until they get into 11th grade. Full-time is only available for 11th or 12th grade students. If you're younger than that, you could possibly be part-time, but you could not be full-time. And for students that are younger than 11th grade, ultimately, they do have to have all college level placement scores. And that's not a requirement for a student for 11th and 12th grade. Remember, I was talking about that we have high school classes, those core high school 11th and 12th grade graduation requirements as high school level classes that we teach. And so it's not a requirement for an 11th or 12th grade to have all college level scores, but it would be a requirement for a student that was younger than 11th or 12th grade. And students that are younger than 11th or 12th grade have to have at least a unweighted high school 3.0 GPA. Or if it was middle school, and we're looking for what would calculate out to a 3.0 or higher. But it's a very, very small number of students who actually might start with us while they're still in middle school. And then as we get to 9th grade, and then especially 10th grade, we get a few more and a few more. But primarily we are largely dominated by 11th and 12th grade students, and those would be the only ones that could be full-time with us. But you could actually, in theory, to even start in 6th grade.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so what if a child has a 504 plan? How is that used when taking a PERT test?
Okay, so I'll briefly talk about that, but if you really have more specific questions, call our office. But let me talk about the PERT a little bit. The PERT test is untimed. And so a lot of times with students who may have some type of accommodation plan in place, that can be one of the big things that's there, is kind of having extra time on that test. The PERT test is untimed. And so that accommodation is really already there. But, sometimes a student may have an accommodation plan that might include, maybe somebody needs to read the questions to a student, rather than them reading the question themselves. If that's something that's the case, you need to contact our office and talk. Ultimately, additional accommodations can be arranged, but it's kind of got to get coordinated on the front end of things. But kind of going along with that on 504 or IEP students who do have accommodation plans, that is something that then, if they're starting in classes with us, that student would end up connecting with our department at the college that works with students with accommodation plans. And then they would work with that student in setting up what they would be eligible to have as accommodations in college classes, which can be different than what's available in K-12 as far as accommodations. Accommodations that can be permitted may not exactly be the same, but we do have a department here that works very well with students and families. And if a student was accepted into our program and then just looking at having accommodations for their classes they're taking with, they'd end up working with that department.
Okay. And then how many times can you take the PERT test?
With the dual enrollment program, once a semester is something. So like if you're coming in and applying, it's one shot on the PERT. Now, again, remember, we'll take ACT or SAT and CLT results as well. But we don't allow students to take the PERT. They didn't quite make the score they wanted. And so then I'll come back in a couple of weeks and take it again. If you walk into our assessment center as a college student, maybe a student that's coming here, going to start here in the fall, and they walk in the assessment center to do placement testing, they may see signs and stuff that say, hey, you can take again within a week. At that point, they kind of start charging fees and stuff to be retaking. College students, things can be a little bit different, and they could take it more frequently. But for our program, we really want to make sure that there has been additional instruction or time to do some more studying and preparation, and that we don't just keep letting a student take and take again. So it's typically kind of once a semester that a student could take the PERT or a section of the PERT. And then, but again, could be avenues for us to get some testing placement from other ways of like an ACT, SAT, or CLT.
Okay. And then how is communication with the high schools about students' progress and high school graduation requirements?
Okay. So good question. So we have a very good relationship with Alachua County Public Schools, and they actually allow us to have access to their database of transcripts. And so we always know exactly where a student is with high school graduation requirements. And whoever your student's assigned advisor is with dual enrollment, you'll get to know them pretty well, because we're always meeting at least once a semester, because it's always time to register for that next semester. A college class only lasts a semester. So the new students I started meeting with this week, we're selecting classes that start in August, they're over with in December. Come January, you have new college classes. You have an opportunity to earn more college credit in just that second semester. And so the first thing that we are ever doing as we meet with students is, let's look at where you are with high school graduation requirements. Because regardless of what the college plans are and what a students want to do on the college end of things, first priority is making sure that you're going to graduate from high school. And so we're always tracking where students are with high school graduation requirements, and whether a student's full-time with us or even if they're part-time with us. Now, if a student is in Alachua County Public Schools, we don't necessarily then have access to the transcript, but part of the application and then ongoing, if a student's in our program, we are contacting that student's high school, whether it might be PK or again, might be a private school. Sometimes we may have students that might be from outside of Alachua County that are coming to us, and that we are getting updated transcripts from those high schools before then we're meeting with them to be selecting the future classes so we can make sure they're going to stay on track.
Okay. Is dual enrollment only for senior year a good option, or is it more beneficial to do it both junior and senior year?
Yeah, I think it really is up to the individual student and family, and kind of what they may want to be getting done and not getting done. We have a lot of students that just come to us for senior year. By the time you get to senior year, most students have the majority of their high school graduation requirements done. As you get to senior year, typically you've got one credit left to go in English, maybe a credit to go in math. U.S. government economics traditionally have kind of been senior year classes, and stuff, but you don't still have social studies, science, foreign language, English, math. By the time you get to senior year, a lot of times you kind of have some what you might call free periods. And maybe you've kind of taken the stuff at the high school that you were really interested in, and that they don't really have a lot of other options left that you're particularly interested in. But maybe here at the college, we've got a wider variety of courses that could be available to you. And so again, a lot of students just come to us for senior year, and that's great. But other students, they may, whether they're just trying to take advantages of much college courses that they could get done while still in high school, and that, tuition's getting covered and books are getting loaned. And so they may say, hey, I want to start in 11th grade. Great. Or sometimes students are just not that engaged in their high school environment for whatever reason, and they're just looking for a change. And so they may want to start with us earlier. But it really is just kind of up to whatever is best for that individual student and family, and just what they're, for meeting their goals and what they'd like to have that senior year look like, or that junior and senior year look like.
Okay, so we had a parent join us a little later. And she says, what grade can they start dual enrollment, 11th or 12th grade? I came in late and I'm sorry if you already went over it.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And so full-time dual enrollment only available for 11th or 12th graders, but we actually, students can be dual enrolled even as early as 6th grade. State of Florida opened that up a few years ago. And so there's different criteria, a little bit higher standard that has to be met for students that are that young looking at coming, but could be an option. And if they're younger than 11th grade, they could only be part-time. They could not be a full-time student with us, but could be as young as 6th grade. Not many doing that, but then, full-time dual enrollment is only for 11th and 12th grade.
Okay, so since we've already answered about freshmen and sophomores eligibility, this one's I'll add to say, what are the eligibility requirements for dual enrollment?
So we would be looking for students to be able to come into dual enrollment, and I'll talk about specifically 11th and 12th grade. Need to have at least one placement score, be at college level. And where students definitely need to be on track with high school graduation requirements. We're not a place for a student that's gotten behind in requirements to try to catch up. You really need to be on track with your high school graduation requirements. Ideally, we would like to see a student have about a 3.0 unweighted GPA, but that's not a hard and fast thing. If it's a little bit lower than that, that's okay. And that one college level, at least one college level placement score, really need to be on track with high school graduation requirements. For students that are younger, I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. They can't be full-time. They do have to have all college level placement scores, and they do have to have at least a 3.0 unweighted GPA. But those 11th and 12th graders, which is the bulk of our students, eligibility, at least one college level placement score, on track with requirements, and around a 3.0, but we could go a little bit lower than that.
Okay. And so does the placement test determine what math / English class is taken, or is it the student's current level in school?
Those placement scores largely determine what courses they'd be eligible to be taking. Math especially. English, if a student's testing college level, and that they could go into a college composition class, that's traditionally the first English class a student would take. But we do have a couple of other options that are English, and they would actually earn English credit for high school, but they're not called college composition. We have a literature appreciation class that for high school earns English credit. And so English, maybe there could be a few options. Math really is kind of a specific placement based upon that placement testing. But we also are looking at grades in those subject areas from off of that transcript that they're coming from their school. And even if a student, if they test that, hey, I could be going into college English, but we're looking at D+ in their high school English, we're not going to throw that student into college English. You're going to prove yourself that you can handle things with us, and the more freedom that you have here and the more maturity and responsibility, we're going to put you in that high school English class for the first semester. You do well, you absolutely can move up to college English in that second semester. But we're looking at grades as well. But even if a student had straight A's and everything, if we don't have the placement scores that allow the college level for that, we can't override that.
Okay. Is sign up for classes first come, first serve, or dual enrollment high school students have a good chance of enrolling into their desired college classes?
So that's an interesting question. With students brand new to the program, you are not the earliest bird getting the worm. Because students that are already in the program, as well as the college students that are here that are continuing in the next semester, they get to register, quite a bit earlier. All our 11th grade students with us this year, we registered them back in March for their fall classes. And for our new students coming in to start with us in the fall, we have just started this week meeting with them to register. So anyway, so it's not necessarily quite as early as what students, but once you're with us, and then we're looking at the next semester, dual enrollment gets to start registering earlier than anybody else.
Wow. Okay.
So now, can each of the advisors meet with 300 students in 1 week to get registered earlier than everybody else can start registering? No, we can't. And so anyway, but actually once you're in the program, dual enrollment has registration open earlier than anybody else at the college. Just like by a week, but we are able to do earlier. And so those students that pay attention to our emails and to our announcements saying, hey, here's our calendar, make your appointment, you can be that early bird and have the choice of the most popular college professors. They're not filled yet and all of that.
Okay, so we talked about our middle schoolers. So if the anonymous person that had that question, if there's more information that you need about what middle schoolers opportunities are, just go ahead and reach out to their office.
Reach out to our office. Yes.
Okay. And then how many hours are part-time?
So part-time is the part-time and full-time really is how many college credit hours that you're enrolled in. It's not necessarily like the number of classes, but most college classes will earn 3 college credit hours. And full-time hits when a student is registered for 12 college credit hours. So in general, that's probably 4 classes. So part-time is 11 college credit hours or less. But sometimes there's randomly a college class that might only be 1 credit hour or 2 credit hours. And so then a part-time student might be part-time by hours, but maybe have 4 classes with us. It's not necessarily the number of classes. We're really looking at the number of college credit hours. I think I see a question about, can students do Cambridge and dual enrollment at the same time? Yes, they can. A Cambridge student that is remaining Cambridge and doing dual enrollment would be part-time with us, because you're going to have several classes you still have to keep in that Cambridge program at your high school. But we do have Cambridge students that remain Cambridge and will participate in dual enrollment, but it would be part-time.
Okay. Can we do in-person and online classes?
Yes, you may.
Okay. If a student wants to take chemistry not offered at their high school, do they need to take a math class at Santa Fe first? Or is it the PERC or ALEC enough?
So yes. So a lot of college math and science classes kind of go hand in hand. And so there are some college sciences that students could not take initially because they may need to get through some more math before they could take it. For chemistry, our college chemistry does require that a student has successfully completed college algebra, or that they have tested beyond college algebra on their placement testing, which that is, they mentioned PERT, and then they had /ALEX. The ALEX test is a specific college level math placement test that could determine, could you be beyond the entry level college math, which is what the PERT determines. If a student reaches that level on the PERT, they then would be then taking the ALEX, which could say, hey, are they ready to go into college trigonometry or college calculus? But college chemistry does require that a student has completed college algebra successfully, or that they have tested beyond college algebra on their placement test.
Okay. If a student starts before their 11th grade year, is there a limit on how many years they can attend?
No, the limit on how many years that you can attend is just, it concludes when your cohort class would be graduating from high school. So So whatever, if you're a seventh grader and you kind of calculate out, well, when's my 12th grade, when I reach 12th grade, what year is that? That's when things would conclude. We don't have students go beyond what their cohort group would be graduating at that senior year of high school. But again, in theory, you could start with us in sixth grade. And so that takes you all the way through when that sixth grade class would be graduating from high school. That's how long you could go with us.
Wow. Okay, so when a student enrolls part-time, where or what school is their primary counselor or person who guides their curriculum requirements? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think maybe, who's kind of making sure and that they're staying on track with things and kind of guiding what courses that they're doing. Again, with the Alachua County Public Schools, because we do have access to transcripts, that we can readily see what classes they're taking or registered to be taken at their high school. And then we're making sure we're not duplicating things here and doing that. But oftentimes we are communicating with those guidance counselors at the high school too, especially with part-time students. And, that students, it's like, they've talked with their high school counselor, they've let them know, hey, I want to be doing my foreign language and my math at the high school, but I want to be doing this classes at the college. And then we're working with that. But we communicate very well with all the high school guidance counselors, work on that. And for a part-time student, there needs to be some knowledge of what's happening in both places, and whether it's just we can see it in the records or that we're speaking with those guidance counselors at the high school.
Okay. Is an A on a dual enrollment class transfers as an A to high school class? Would this count as a 5 on a weighted high school GPA?
Yes, it would.
Okay. And then I understand that college counts in 1 extra point for IB, AP, and dual enrollment.
Dual enrollment in Cambridge, and typically the honors classes at high schools are going to be a half point as far as universities looking at that.
Okay. The state testing results affect college enrollment.
So I don't know if I know if I'm answering your question, what you meant, but state of Florida has high school graduation requirements in the testing area. Students have to show proficiency in reading and English grammar and like Algebra 1, and that you've got these end of course exams, and and you have to show that proficiency. Students, to be eligible to be with us in 11th and 12th grade, if they're a public school student, they do have to have met the state mandated testing requirements to be able to come into dual enrollment as an 11th or 12th grader. Now, for students that start younger than that, you don't necessarily have to have met that testing requirement yet, because it really is the 10th grade testing in the spring, as far as like the reading and the English grammar. That's the one that counts for high school graduation requirement. But say a student starts with us in 8th grade and they're continuing on, they're being successful, they're a public school student. If for whatever random reason they actually didn't pass the 10th grade state mandated testing when they were in 10th grade, then they could not continue with us in 11th grade.
Wow. Okay.
Oh.
And so this question, is it hard to get into UF after? I will say, before you answer this question, on the 23rd of this month, we will be having our last webinar, and it's going to be on the guaranteed transfer program with Santa Fe. So please join me, because there'll be an expert coming to talk to you. So I'll turn it back over to you, Miss Vivian.
So UF is hard to get into. They're a competitive school here in the state of Florida. I think most consider it to probably be the most competitive school to get into as far as the public universities here in Florida. regardless of whether you're dual enrollment, whether you're at high school, you're doing AP, you're doing Cambridge, you're doing IB. There's no guarantees. Anything besides the minus the guaranteed transfer track that y'all are gonna talk about next week. But you need to do well in your classes. That is critical. Coming to dual enrollment and trying to take advantage of all this college credit, and getting this while you're still in high school and stuff, that's awesome and great, but you want to do well with what you're doing. That you just try to push to try to get as much credit earned, but then your grades drop some because you were probably trying to do too much, and maybe or you just got yourself so stressed and overwhelmed, and then that you have a college transcript that has a lot of C's on it. That probably didn't do you any favors in the long run. The quality of that transcript is the most important thing. And we are always in favor of students taking things a little bit slower, but keeping that quality up rather than trying to push and try to get as much done as possible. But in general, I would say, as far as specifically Santa Fe and UF, as UF is looking at a group of applicants and everybody kind of have similar stuff, kind of similar type of GPA, similar type of extracurricular, all that kind of stuff. And then they're looking, this student's coming from this county, this student's coming from that county, and that program and this program. Santa Fe and UF are sister institutions. We are in the same county, we are in the same city. And UF, everything else being equal, they are much more likely to accept that student coming out of Santa Fe than they are coming from somewhere else.
Right. So will a full-time student graduate high school with a AA or a AS degree?
Absolutely not a guarantee. There can be a small percentage of students who may have AA degree completed or an AS degree. And again, we've got some certificate programs and stuff. But it really is very much the exception rather than the rule. Any given year, we probably have about 10% of our students who actually will have an entire AA degree completed by the time that they are graduating from high school. And there's a lot of factors as to why that is. Really need to be full-time with us. And a lot of students don't want to do full-time. Probably have to be all college level scores from the very beginning and be ready to be taking all those college courses. And again, keeping that quality of the transcript up, that's going to be really critical for that student to be doing. AA degree requirements and high school graduation requirements don't perfectly match. There is some stuff that you have to do just because you need that class to satisfy a high school requirement that you wouldn't need to be doing for AA degree, but you need to graduate from high school. And then it becomes really important for a student to know, what are they trying to do with that college degree, with that AA degree? Because if you've got that AA degree done, you've kind of done the first 2 years of that 4-year bachelor's degree, you've gotten all the general stuff done, that university you're trying to go to needs to know, what program are you coming into? But if you've got first 2 years of college done, you're supposed to have it figured out. And then they want you to have all the prerequisites for that program done as well. And some degree paths don't have a lot of extra stuff you'd have to do. But there are some degree paths, for example, engineering, you've got a heck of a lot of math and science courses that you've got to get through over and above what's required for the AA degree in math and science. You've got to do a lot more extra. And are you going to get all that done by the time you're finishing high school? Not many students do. But that's okay. You take what you've gotten done, do a good job with it, and then, you're moving on to that university. They're going to bring in what college credits you've done. They're going to see, oh, this isn't a freshman coming in, academically. They could very well be working with you on junior level in most areas. But it is it's a small percentage of students that will actually have everything done for an AA degree. And, AS degree requirements is different, and stuff. Sometimes, yes, they'll have something done, but it's a small percentage.
Okay. And I know you talked about the varied schedules for dual classes. How does that fit into their high school schedule if they're part-time?
So that is, one of the things that, we have to try to figure out and work on. In an ideal world, when you came and met with your dual enrollment advisor and you're saying, okay, I'm part-time and I want to do these classes with Santa Fe and I'm doing these classes at my high school, it would be great if you knew what periods those classes would be at your high school. And then we would work around to work around those classes at the high school. And again, because we have so many classes offered at different days and times and stuff, we do have a lot of flexibility with scheduling. But a lot of times when we're meeting with students late spring, first half of the summer, the high schools can't tell you when those classes are going to be, what periods they're going to be.
Mhm.
And so then we just use, okay, well, ideally, what would you like it to look like? Would you like to start the day with us and us get you finished late morning and then you're over at your high school for kind of lunch and fifth and sixth period? Or would you rather start at your high school in the day and then kind of come to us midday and then come, and we'll just ask what in an ideal world would you like for it to look like? And then we'll do that schedule and then just encourage that student, stay on top of the high school, be reaching out, saying, do you know when this is going to be yet? Do you know when it's going to be? And then as soon as you do know, which usually isn't until mid-July, late July, a lot of times that the high school might really be able to tell a student when a particular class is. And then if the only time they have it is conflicting with what you've done with us, then you reach back out to us and we will do our best to look at adjusting things.
Okay, then how does dual enrollment stack up against the Cambridge for acceptance rates to University of Florida? My child is successfully completing the Cambridge program with a 5.0. Will dual enrollment affect his acceptance? Is it looked at as positive?
I think it really is, whatever a student and family feel like is going to be the best situation for them. Cambridge students, if you're being very successful in the Cambridge program and you really are enjoying that program, you may very well want to be staying with that program. Certainly UF and universities around the country have great respect for Cambridge and the rigor that is. Again, sometimes we'll have students that they want to supplement the Cambridge program, and they really will stay full-time with Cambridge, but then they'll add another class or two with us and be a part-time student just to add a little bit more variety to that Cambridge curriculum. And going in, I do hear from students and families, sometimes they get into Cambridge and they're going through and they're being successful with it. But Cambridge has a lot of science focus to it. You have this double block of chem or double block of biology and such. And maybe the student really isn't necessarily very STEM driven. And they sometimes can get a little bit then tired of that set Cambridge curriculum that maybe as they've gotten into it in later years of high school, it's not necessarily going in the direction that they're most passionate about. And so those tend to be the students that might leave Cambridge and come to us because it's just not necessarily doing what they want, but not that they're not being successful in it. But up to really for you to explore and just talk about as to whether you think, if you're happy with Cambridge, stick with it. Those very successful Cambridge students, oftentimes can do well with applying to those competitive schools and getting in. And similar to IB, I see something sitting here about IB. And we do have students that may come from IB and whether come and do something part-time with us or perhaps that they choose to leave IB and come to us full-time. But it's just, you know, it's just students and families need options, and just deciding what's going to be, you know, the best learning environment for student, and for them to be successful, and for them to be moving forward with what some of their goals are, and you know, and also possibly, you know, taking advantage of being able to earn, could be a good amount of college credit, with, you know, without having to pay for it. And you know, sometimes students in IB, Cambridge, AP classes, you know, that they can get a little bit frustrated as they're moving through it, because they may do very well in those courses through the year and have been working hard and have strong grades. But then whether you are earning college credit for that course is going to be dependent upon how you do on that standardized test for that course at the end of the day. And you know, maybe you're not feeling well that day or whatever, and then you've worked hard for the year and you didn't end up coming out of it with college credit. You know, dual enrollment, your grade in that college credit comes from all the work you do for the semester. It is not based upon a standardized test at, you know, on one day, one time. That if you've done the work in that class, you're having college credit at the end of it.
Okay. And then if a student has taken AP classes before starting dual enrollment, will they already have credits counted?
Yeah. So if you have taken AP classes and you have passed AP exams, that is something that you know, you just share with us. Alachua County Public School, we can actually see the results once they're in and posted on the transcript. But yes, but we'll look, and again, we're not going to look for a student to duplicate credit. It's like, oh, you know, you have college credit from doing AP US history. We're not then putting you into a college US history class. We're going to process that credit, and we're going to make sure that we don't duplicate it. But yeah, if you come here to Santa Fe, whether as dual enrollment or come here as a college student, you'll be sharing those AP results and or Cambridge results, or IB results, and whatever appropriate college credit you may have earned through those testings. We will process that.
Wonderful. Well, we have reached the end of our question list, and I just want to thank everybody for joining in and asking these questions. And please feel free to reach out to the dual enrollment department at Santa Fe if you have additional questions or something wasn't quite answered that you wanted a little bit more in-depth answer to, and they'll definitely be more than willing to help you out. And so, Ms. Vivian, we just thank you. I am so excited about the fact that my families wanted this and you guys jumped right on board and said, we're going to do it. So thank you so, so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for reaching out to us. We were thrilled to be able to provide some information. And again, as Miss Tina was saying, if anybody has, you know, has questions, you know, please contact our office. And you know, and we'll look forward to maybe participating again sometime next school year and doing stuff.
Absolutely.
We would love to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and close us out for this evening. I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and I appreciate your participation. Each week, you are available to connect with me for more informative discussions just like this one. And once again, I am Tina Folston-Hayes, the Parent Academy Specialist for Educational Equity and Outreach for the Alachua County Public Schools. And next week, we're going to have Mr. Bill Goodman on, and he's going to talk about college and admissions and financial aid. So please join me again at 6 o'clock. And that following Thursday is going to be all about that guaranteed transfer program that Santa Fe offers. And so I would love for you guys to join me, and then we'll be done for the school year until next time. So please join me for those last two. It would be awesome if I can see you back and you have questions for them too. And so without holding you all any longer, thank you so much again for joining us, Ms. Vivian. I appreciate you, and we will see you back here next school year.
All right.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. You're welcome.